Hello, everybody, and welcome back. I'm Ko, joined as always by Brax, and yes, that's you. And today we're gonna do our special again, part 2. And in the last episode, we said we're gonna have to split this up into many episodes simply because there's so much to talk about, and we're gonna dedicate an entire episode to one of the key features of every RPG, not just simply any MMORPG, which is classes. Now, whatever name the game gives this feature doesn't matter. For example, Guild Wars 2 calls them professions instead of classes, and in Star Wars: The Old Republic, they are called combat styles, and then they specialize, so they're called specs. So there's no real unified name for it. Most players just simply know them as class. So what we're gonna do is, each of us has experienced a lot of different ways to experience classes in any RPG, and we're gonna simply look at what we think might be the best, worst, or most well done things in the games we've played. And to start this off very simple, Brax, as you said in the last episode, you did like New World. You mentioned it so many times. And as someone who has played a lot more New World than me, what do you like about the character creation, especially the classes within that game?
The thing is, what I like the most is not specific class kind of thing. So it's not like World of Warcraft where you just go in and you choose a shaman and you know exactly what you're doing, right? So it's just you don't have a class. So basically you just play a healer, or you can still play a healer or a tank or a rogue or whatever it is, but it's more or less like you choose what kind of weapons you are using, and with that you build it up in a certain way, so you have a lot of room to experiment in a way, so you want to build your own kind of thing if you want. But they are still, put into certain categories like damage dealers and healers and tanks and stuff like that. So it's kind of cool, you have a lot of wiggle room there in a way, where you can basically do your own kind of thing, which is kind of similar to SO's 3, right? I think.
Somewhat,
kinda.
Somewhat.
Somewhat, yeah. But the thing is, with New World, you choose a weapon, then it's different attributes that you're putting in, like strength or dexterity or intelligence or constitution focus and stuff like that, which is a specific thing for certain weapons, right? So for example, if you have a life staff, you're a healer, you should put in focus and stuff like that. So it's kind of cool. It's a cool way of doing your own kind of class. You have much more, as I said, wiggle room. So I kind of liked that in a way, For example, I really wanted to play a class or something that is like dual wielding axe thing, right? So you have axe in each hand.
Yeah, I can see why.
So that would,
obviously. I mean,
yeah, but it was really cool to play that in a way, But I think that you can also have like a weapon on your back, so where you can have like an axe or
a switch weapon mechanic, basically.
So yeah, it's kind of cool, you can combine stuff, or you can be like a. I think that Nick Cage actually played like a tank and a healer, like a kind of switcheroo kind of thing. It's really cool. I mean, that part is really likable in my opinion. But the other things are not. But we're gonna leave that for another video.
we leave that out. So basically, what we have in the case of New World is sort of like build your character and not your class.
Yeah.
Simply because your decisions define in the end what you want to do, and there's a lot more freedom as to what you can do, and especially being able to combine two very opposite playstyles in the form of, let's say you're playing with the Hatchets and then all of a sudden you get out an Ice Gauntlet, which are the complete opposites of each other. One is more melee, the other is more magic focused. That gives you a lot more possibilities in the end. So you're not in some sort of a theme park MMO like, let's say, World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy XIV, Guild Wars 2, where you are predetermined with your choice as to what you can actually do. I mean, other games do, all those theme park games can have freedom within the class itself, but it's not like you're gonna change your style of combat drastically within a class itself, simply because you're limited by the class fantasy. So it would be weird for a shaman to nowadays, I mean, not talking about classic where stuff like that was possible, where you all of a sudden whip out a two-hander and be like, I'm gonna be a raged focused shaman. I mean, there are some iterations of World of Warcraft where you can do that, and most notably Ascension, where
that would be kind of cool to see, though.
Ascension is very special. We can go over this a little bit in when we talk about World of Warcraft, because we have to. We both played it, and in the case of New World, it's a system that most people will enjoy, simply because nobody likes to be locked in for eternity. And giving
put in a certain box,
they like the amount of creativity you can put out.
Exactly.
I do like that kind of system as well, if done correctly. The biggest problem that can occur is you will make mistakes. In the case of your character is complete garbage. Elder Scrolls Online suffers from that system as well. You do have a lot of freedom, but you can screw up your character massively. And if there are ways to respec your character, all is fine. If you do it on a roleplay purpose, let's say you want to be some sort of ice shooting ranger or whatever, fine, completely fine, it's your choice. As soon as it goes into group content, and that is something that is kind of predetermined by MMORPGs, the amount of mistakes that you will make there and the rate of failure becomes incredibly high, simply because you're being held to a standard, not only by the community, but by the game itself, to perform within your role to a certain level. So yeah, from a roleplay perspective, you can build whatever character you want. But if you're playing a DPS and you're not dealing any damage, then, I mean, that you should learn from mistakes on that part, but it's the game's job to tell you that you're doing something wrong, and I can't name you a game that will actually tell you that you're doing something wrong, simply because then you're taking away that creativity that the game actually wants to provide by saying, I mean, yes, you can do that, but not here. So being locked out of something that is key to the MMORPG doesn't really work. So New World system is great, no doubt about that, and I really, really enjoyed it. But it comes with its inherent flaws of giving players too much freedom.
Yeah.
If you
totally agree with that.
If we go into the other game I just named, Elder Scrolls Online, it's the same thing. There used to be builds based on the resource that you were spending for your combat abilities. Stamina or magicka. So any Elder Scrolls player, whether it be Elder Scrolls Online or the single player RPGs, knows those two resources. What you did was you scaled either of that resource up to whatever the highest amount you could achieve at that point, which then increased one of two major things. It either increased your weapon damage for stamina or the spell power for magicka. So you locked yourself in by choosing a certain resource, which was fine because every class was able to play both stamina or magicka. You just picked what you liked. Problem was, some builds were so not designed for one specific resource that a perfect example was, at a certain point, the Stamina Sorcerer, which has, like all the other characters, 10 quick bar slots, 5 for each weapon set, but out of those 10 slots, only 2 were your class skills. 1 was a tornado and 1 was a movement speed buff. That doesn't seem right. All the other skills were just weapon skills. Fine, completely fine. I mean, Elder Scrolls is known for having those things as well. Besides magic, you did specialize in a certain weapon type, two-handed, dual wield, if it was possible.
Yeah.
Dual wield wasn't always possible, or one-handed sword or weapon and shield, whatever it was. It helped build your character within an RPG, a single-player RPG.
Yeah.
If you have predetermined classes within a game and you want to offer some sort of freedom to build it, at least make it some sort of logical. It was really weird to see Stamina Sorcerers just running around with like dual wield, I think daggers was it at this point, and a bow. I mean, okay, that's probably the case for most stamina builds anyways nowadays as well. To run around with dual wield or two-handed at this case and at this point of time, and a bow, which always looks weird on classes like a Templar. I mean, just think about it: a Templar with a bow. Okay, that's Elder Scrolls
like
Online
a
for you.
Paladin in World of Warcraft, same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it is always. People will always complain about Survival Hunter in Legion. It went from being a ranged spec to a melee spec, and people still complain about it to this day. So yeah, it is not really fitting with a class fantasy, I guess. But I mean, the developers have creative freedom as well when it comes to their own game. So, as you have experienced Elder Scrolls Online as well, and it shares a lot of similarities with New World, what would you suggest as something to keep in mind when playing your character, when creating your own build, your own class? Simply because you are already restricted because you have to pick one. Okay, let's make something other first. What is your favorite class in Elder Scrolls Online?
As I remember, I played Nightblade, so that was like a rogue kind of thing.
Yep.
And I kind of liked that. You know, it was back when I played, which was a couple of years back. I don't know how much it changed now, but back when I played it, it was pretty strong, as I remember.
It still is. It's still a very solid pick.
And I really enjoyed it because I played Rogue on World of Warcraft as well, and I kind of liked that kind of gameplay. So it was very similar to me. It was good. I mean, it was. I had to choose something. It was like Dragon Knight or Nightblade. So it was I'm gonna go Nightblade.
Wrong choice.
Cleaner.
So what did you play? Did you play like a magic character, or did you play like a melee character, or well, a melee character usually goes with a bow as well, so you're kind of ranged, unless you're going for wall play purposes and pick something completely out of the blue.
I think I played a melee character mainly, and it was daggers.
Yeah.
So it was I was just going like classic kind of thing, you know. It's like just transferring myself from World of Warcraft into ESO,
I see.
which is just I did the same thing, you know. It was the same thing. The main problem with it was, you know, just me getting used to the area and possibly wandering into the wrong area where there's, you know, high level stuff to kill.
That was a
happened
problem
lot.
back in the day. Yeah.
That happened a lot to me. So yeah. Otherwise, I actually liked it. ESO was really cool, but the thing is, I didn't have any people to play with, so that's why I didn't stick around. But probably I would. You know, because I really liked it. I liked the look of it. The Nightblade was really fun. I didn't play the others, so I need to go back and check them out a little bit. You know?
Well, at least, but at least you at this when you played it, you did saw the descriptions. You did know a little bit of basic knowledge about every class that was available at this time, which was 4: the Sorcerer, the Dragon Knight, the Templar, and the Nightblade. The newest additions are the Warden that came in Morrowind, and the Necromancer that came in, I do not know how to pronounce that, Elsewhere. Elder Scrolls Online players know what expansion I'm talking about, but the Necromancer came in that expansion. So up to this day you have 6 classes, and it's Elder Scrolls Online with its class system is rather difficult to rate, simply because when you look at it, and it was back in that day when you played as well, you picked your class, but you did use your weapon skills most of the time. Getting unique class abilities into your build wasn't really a thing. And when you actually managed to do that, you did pick buffs. Simple as that. You just picked buffs. And up to a certain patch, which was just recently, it was still that case. So if you look at it at a plain basic level, what you picked at the beginning was merely cosmetic. And that is something I really do not enjoy. Someone that tried the game for a couple of 100 hours to really get a very good impression of it said at the end, your class choice at the beginning doesn't matter. It is as you were playing a classless MMORPG that gives you a lot of options to pick a lot of skills and transform all of them into a build. But the only difference in, for example, performance, which is part of the endgame PvE and PvP part, mattered simply because you picked different passives, and those passives came with your class. So you have a couple of 1000 DPS difference within the same playstyle. So if you would compare Stamina Templar and a Stamina Dragon Knight, there's not a lot of difference. And there is a change that probably alleviates a lot of the problems of not being really able to use your class skills, and that is you're not locked into your resource anymore. Meaning, whatever you have as a resource is just a number that means that gives you availability of skills. It doesn't matter anymore if your skill is stamina or magicka based. It just deals the same amount of damage, giving you a lot more options to pick your class skills, simply because you're not locked out of them by your resource. So, as an example to help us understand, if you played a Dragon Knight and you went stamina, you mostly relied on venom abilities and damage over time effects, and the venom theme goes through the entire stamina Dragon Knight playstyle. Now you can also incorporate your flame abilities, which deal magic damage, and flame damage, which is also a magic damage type, and you will not suffer any DPS loss because the scaling works differently. So if you go really high onto stamina, you have a lot more stamina to use, but a lot less magicka, obviously, so you can't really use that many magicka abilities, but at least you can now. So that helps with class fantasy. So since that is the first MMORPG that we're talking about that has actual classes to pick, because New World doesn't really have any, it's just based on the weapons.
Yep.
And you do know about all the classes in Elder Scrolls Online. If you would play right now, and you have to decide which one do you like the most based on class fantasy, with the inclusion of Warden, who uses ice magic, and pets, he even can have like a bear as a guardian running behind him and all of that. He summons bugs out of the ground, and eagles to attack, so all of the nature stuff, and a necromancer who can also summon minions and has like diseases abilities and minions he can even transform into like a bone tyrant and be like a tank or whatever, gets a massive health boost. So with those 6 classes in mind, which one do you like class fantasy wise in Elder Scrolls Online?
I mean, for me, it's a no-brainer there. You know, I think you would agree with that, but I would definitely pick the Necromancer.
Oh,
that's
okay.
1000%, because it's like, you know, I also play the Warlock a lot in World of Warcraft, as I remember.
Yeah.
And I like that kind of dark vibe to the characters. Also the Death Knight in the World of Warcraft. I kind of like that kind of vibe, you know, dark and unforgiving. So it's the Necromancer for sure. And that's why I picked the Nightblade at the start, right, as well, because it's, you know, he works in the dark. He's, you know, an assassin kind of thing. It's kind of fits. So a Templar, for example, for me, nah, it's not gonna work. But yeah, Necromancer, 100%. I mean, I remember being on a job couple of years back, and my coworker actually said, you know, I'm playing ESO, and they just put in the Necromancer, and he showed me a couple of clips from YouTube. It was like, oh, that's so damn cool. And really I wanted to play it back then, but I, you know, got caught up in work a lot, so I didn't, you know, actually go in and try it. But I really want to do that. I mean, I think it's about time, you know. It is.
It was really a joy to experience the Necromancer, both as a player itself when you actually played it and seeing it in a group. 2 things you have to keep in mind though. The first one is, imagine you summon a little skeleton. That skeleton runs towards the enemy, jumps and explodes. That's called Blast Bones. It's one of its key feature abilities. It's really, really funny to watch it because you see something that just jumps and just explodes in their face. I
like that.
It's really, really funny to watch. And the other thing is, I really
like that.
If I recall it correctly, it is the first time in the Elder Scrolls games that you were able to, at least the main games, you were able to play with necromancy. And they always said necromancy in the Elder Scrolls universe is kind of forbidden. It's a dark magic and nobody is allowed to practice it. If you actually use any of your necromancer abilities within a town, you're being chased by the guards. Like,
oh, that's nice.
It actually states in the tooltip of every necromancer ability, this ability is a crime and you will be punished for it. So if you just, for example, transform into that bone tyrant in the middle of a city, you're getting attacked by the guards.
Oh man, that's so good. And that's so good. I mean, I don't remember it, but do you have like a negative impact on it if you could just go and kill the guards afterwards?
You can't. It is impossible to kill them. They don't have a health value.
Oh, oh, shit.
You're getting
Okay.
you can't run away from them, and you're getting absolutely murdered. Like they use most of the Dragon Knight abilities where they, for example, they get those spikes out of the ground that root you and they pull you back in, and they deal so much damage. You cannot survive them. The only thing you can is run if you can, but other than that, good luck.
No, I mean now I really want to try it. You know, it's yeah, it's been a while.
So, class fantasy wise, I really enjoyed the Dragon Knight. Simply because it is a really nice mixture of dragon themed abilities and being able to kind of fulfill a certain fantasy of a playstyle if you enjoy it. Obviously, you're getting shoehorned into various things simply because you picked that class. So it's not really possible to play a Dragon Knight and be like, I want to be an Ice Mage. Like, yeah, sure. Do what you think you can do best. But yeah, if you want to play a Fire Mage, obviously you go for a Dragon Knight. And there are a couple of builds with different gear sets that were really, really cool to me, and I did play them. Most notably, Brax, you haven't experienced this yet, but just imagine. I have a fire staff. I'm running around using fire abilities like the flame wall coming from the destruction staff, and I have a fire breath, and I have fire orbs that automatically shoot at targets. And whenever I use an ability, I have a chance to proc a fire ring around myself, which stays for 5 seconds and has a 10-second cooldown. Whatever stays in that fire ring gets damaged and gets burning dot and whatever. And there is a set that can extend flame effects by 5 seconds, including that fire ring that comes from a proc. So I can constantly proc that fire ring and be like, I'm just gonna be a walking nightmare. It's just run in. I can jump with my ultimate into an enemy, knock them all up, immediately have that fire ring and just be like, fire abilities. That's a really cool idea of a fire mage actually, and I really enjoyed that playstyle. Other than that, I mean, I did enjoy the stamina Dragon Knight with its poison, simply because I wanted like a melee dot build. That worked absolutely fine on the Dragon Knight. But I was really, really disappointed with how they implemented the Templar. So if you look into RPGs, whatever RPG it is, you have archetypes. Like you have your standard melee berserker thing, you have like your holy knight, you have like your priest, you have your summoner, you have like your typical mage. Those archetypes go through every RPG, and there are a lot of variations when it comes to, for example, the Holy Knight thing, whatever you want to call it. Templar, Crusader, Holy Knight works as well. I've heard I had some games where they were called that as well. So I did not like that iteration, and it's actually one of my favorite archetypes in any RPG to play something like a Holy Knight. A Templar, a Crusader, Paladin works as well as a name for that archetype. I did not enjoy that. It was not really good, not really well designed. The abilities kind of looked lackluster, and there are in every class and within Elder Scrolls Online you have like a unique ability that makes them stand out. Like that fire jump, for example, for the Dragon Knight. I'm sure you can remember a Nightblade ability that really stuck out to you the most, simply because it said, okay, I am a Nightblade. And you can make that that perspective for every class within Elder Scrolls Online. And the main ability for a Templar was their spear ability that you just jabbed a couple of times, and that was, they had like a light spear and they jabbed an enemy, and that was your main ability most of the time. Like, I kid you not, the rotation for a stamina Templar used to be buff, jab, 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 Buff, buff, jab, 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 jab. That doesn't say temper. That is really weird.
That kind of sounds horrible, if I'm honest. You know, like,
It is really weird, and the sound effect gets on your nerves after a while. I mean, it's a really constant.
you just do what I did. You know, I muted.
I paid for the game in full. I want to hear the sound, and the music of Elder Scrolls Online is really good. Just that sound effect of that jab ability was really weird.
I actually have it right here.
So you have the box. Oh, copyright.
Well, you know, I bought the game. I don't know when it was, but it was.
I think it came out 2012 or 14. 12 or 14. I'm not really sure.
I mean, it still looks like new. You know, barely used it basically. Yeah, I can't. The stupid thing is, no computer now has the CD. You know.
Yeah.
So what am I gonna do with this?
Buy an external CD hard drive, CD drive.
I should, yeah. But
yeah, you should. The game is like 100 gigabytes in download, so.
Oh yeah, we're gonna.
So if you get a head start with CD, you should take advantage of that.
I'm gonna do it for sure. And the best thing is, since I have a Mac computer now, I can play it on Mac.
Oh. So I think Elder Scrolls Online needs a lot of improvement when it comes to its class design and actually implementing the actual class fantasy and possibilities into the gameplay. But then again, it would limit the freedom. So while my subjective opinion might be completely different to what you would think about the game, I can also see that it's absolutely not feasible to implement that into the game without major backlash. So yeah, Elder Scrolls Online classes. A lot to be desired for me, but Brax is so hyped up that he's probably gonna try to get the game running in the next few weeks.
Oh, for sure. I'm gonna try it.
Just simply because you can play a Necromancer with the Elder Scrolls Online. Like I said, the first time you can do that in the main games.
That's actually the main thing that's pulling me back. Necromancer.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. Yeah.
You won't regret it.
I don't think I'm gonna play Nightblade anymore.
No, Necromancer is a real joy to play. You will enjoy it, like really, really enjoy it. I enjoyed it as well when I played it, but I always stuck to Dragon Knight as my go-to class within the game. So
it was the same with Star Wars that we played, right? Yeah. When I was playing the dark side, right, it was good. It was great. I loved it. Since I switched to Jedi, I couldn't do it. It's just no.
You can be evil on the Republic side as well.
Necromancer.
You can be evil on the Republic side as well. Just go around and murder everybody.
I know, but it's still the base thing. No.
You can also be a Sith later. Don't worry. So
yeah.
Let's get into that game that we both enjoyed the most and played the most, World of Warcraft.
Oh, that one.
I'm not sure what you're talking about there. Not sure. So, real quick, fire it out. Favorite class in World of Warcraft?
Favorite class in World of Warcraft?
He's old, he doesn't know what is.
There were several that I really liked, but if I would pick one out, I would probably that would probably the Warlock. Be the Warlock, yeah.
Evil.
I started with the Warlock. Yeah, I started with the Warlock when I got the game, and I'm sticking with it. It's just my kind of way of playing the game.
So, Destruction, Affliction, or Demonology, or all of them?
Oh, I'll be honest with you. I never liked Demonology. I don't know why. I just couldn't take to it. I played it a little bit. I tried it, but it was like, nah, that's not for me. But mostly, since I was playing a lot of PvP and a lot of the times, I know in the previous expansions as well, Affliction was really good. And I liked playing Affliction because I had a lot of mobility in it. So I would probably pick Affliction first, Destruction second, but it also depends on the expansion. So yeah, if it's an expansion where Destruction is really good and Affliction is basically crap, I would probably go Destruction. But I would never go with the what's it called again?
Demonology.
Jeez, the
demons.
Demonology, yeah. I would never go with the demons. I would rather. I hate it so much. I would rather switch a class.
Oh boy.
I just don't like it. It's just kind of weird. I don't know why. It's just like playing a hunter in a way. It's just yeah.
So I guess that kind of already
It's
answers the
weird.
question as to what is your worst class to pick. You're the one you not really hate. Hate is such a strong word. You despise not as well.
I
don't want to play.
like playing. You mean?
Yeah,
Don't want
the
to
class
play.
you absolutely do not want to play.
I wouldn't say hunter. Hunter was fun actually. I played it quite a while. Yeah. I would say demon hunter.
Oh yeah, I can agree on that.
I would say Demon Hunter. I tried Demon Hunter. I leveled it up to max level. I tried it. I tried dungeons. I tried everything. I was like, no, this is not even fun. It's not even it's actually horrible. I don't want to play this. It's kind of, I don't know. It is an evil kind of thing which I usually like, but it's, I don't know. It's just not not for me. I would rather go with a DK if I would pick something like that.
So
100%.
You already mentioned that you really enjoyed the gameplay of Destruction and Affliction in the game type you prefer, but what about the core of a class, the class fantasy, and its visual appearance that comes with it? What do you think is the most enjoyable when you just look at those two things out of all the classes? Is it still the Warlock because of its vibe, or would you go with something else?
No, I stick with the Warlock, man. It's just, it's so good. I don't know. It's just,
Okay.
Warlock or the Rogue. The Rogue would be a secondary thing for me. But yeah, probably the Warlock would be the main one.
Okay.
100%. Yeah.
There's a lot of things that we can look at in World of Warcraft classes, simply because not only does its classes fit into certain archetypes already delivered by RPGs, it also makes very distinct choices within the gameplay section, especially when you look at how are the roles designed within the MMORPG. And obviously you have the holy trinity of tank, healer, and DPS, and within those roles you can clearly make out at least two different types of how to play your role. A very basic example would be DPS, melee, or ranged. That is a very basic example. So if you think about the roles in it as well, and knowing what classes can fulfill those roles, and knowing, I know at least that you have played at least every role on characters, and at least you tried it, and I coached you actually through some of it. Could you name your go-to pick for the tank and healer? We don't need to talk about DPS anymore because it would be the Warlock, obviously.
You mean like one class that would be for both, or
no? Just let's say I'm coming to you and I say, Rex, you need to tank. what class would you pick? And why?
Which class would I pick? Damn, good question.
You have played a lot of tanks with me, and you had different opinions about all of them. I remember you playing Paladin. Good lord.
Which one?
Paladin.
Yeah, Paladin would be probably be the main choice for the tank. That's probably going to be the main choice for the tank. Simple fact, because it's easier.
You know, there's an easier class in World of Warcraft, at least currently on retail, for tanking. That's Druid. But nobody likes Druid.
I never liked Druid. I like Druid as a healing class. But anything beside that was kind of weird for me. I don't know. I just couldn't connect with the class in a way, except maybe the feral one. But that was like I tried it. It was it's okay, but nah. I would rather stick with the rogue, you know. but yeah, I mean for a tank, I would probably go Paladin. Yeah, for the healer,
it's easier.
Yeah, it's easier, but it's also depends on what kind of gameplay we're talking about. Is it PvP or PvE? That's
actually a very interesting thing. Simply because you are more of a PvPer, and I was more of a PvEer. I absolutely despise PvP. I can't. I just no, not my gameplay, not my game type. Absolutely not. For you, it was actually the other way around. You enjoyed PvP a lot more than PvE. Even though I dragged you into PvE activities most of the time, so
and I sucked at it. By the way,
you said that. I'm just not saying anything. Playing a tank within PvP is actually something that we could look at when we actually have to talk about what kind of endgame activities can MMORPGs offer. So, Paladin as a tank.
Played with a tank. Yeah.
Actually, I did that in BFA. I actually did that. I went in as Prot Paladin in arenas 2v2.
Jeez. Okay.
You hate me for that, probably. You would hate me for that.
I never played that way. It was actually I don't think I ever saw a tank in an arena setting. Maybe it was just my luck. I don't know. But I never did see one. Yeah. Actually, did not. Yeah.
Before we go into that healer part for you, just as an info bit, because you probably never heard me telling that story. In BFA, you had to grind out arena raiding for an essence, and that essence was really good for tanks because it gave you versatility. So what I did was queuing up with someone over 2k rating, which is a lot for me because I have none, and go in as a Prot Paladin and pick the talent that gave me I think the cooldown reduction on the Divine Steed, and made people being knocked back when I ran into them. So I just went for the mages and Shadow Priests and whatever and just constantly knocked them around so the other guy could kill one. That's what I did as Prot Paladin in arenas. And of course a little bit of damage, obviously, but yeah, just mostly just running around and interrupting the mage.
Oh god.
I mean, it worked like a charm. I did my first 10 promo games. I got like to 1.3k rating, got my essence at rank 2 and was like, fine, okay, fine, I'm done with PvP forever. Like, I don't want to anymore. Fine, done. That's it. So that is. Let's go
I really liked playing arena, but if you don't have a good guy next to you to play with, it's just a pain in the ass. But the RPGs were really fun. I actually had a guild before you guys, and we did RPGs like a weekly kind of thing. I think we did like 2 a week or something. Like, I think it was 2 a week, and I loved it. Absolutely loved it. It was so good. Considering that the healing part of it was my main focus in a PvP environment as a healer was to have something very, very mobile, right? So it's not, just standing there and sitting and casting shit. You know, it's basically me running around and chucking spells in a way. So and that kind of thing, I actually chose the monk the most.
Ooh, okay.
As a healer, because I really enjoy healing with the monk, and that's actually the only thing I enjoy with the monk, because everything else is just horrible to me. I don't know why.
Yeah,
I just
tried
like,
it as
I
well.
just
It's
like
not my style.
I just like the healing part of the monk. I really like that. So yeah, I healed with the monk. I think we came up to what was it again? Like 1800 or 1900 RPG
Okay.
rating, which was kind of cool for a group, you know. And I absolutely loved it. I tried the priest as well. I liked holy, but it was, as I said, I don't like the you know, the static status of it. You know, just being there and healing. I really didn't like that. I really like being mobile, because I'm used to, even when I play something like a dungeon or something, you probably have seen it. I always jump around and do something, you know. It's just I'm never standing still.
I've seen that, and you caused, sometimes you cause a lot of trouble with that, because you were like, oh, and then you see like a group of enemies running into you, and you're like, shit. Try to heal that, you couldn't.
It's just, the thing is, I was used to the PvP environment, so I was just jumping around and just moving all the time. That's why it was such a problem for me to do raids, you know, because it's just doing this, yeah. It was like, I can't stand still. It just you know, it's boring. I can't do it, but it was fun nonetheless. We did a lot of good stuff together, which was kind of cool. But yeah, in a PvP environment, most of the time I would choose the monk or a disciplined priest. That was mostly the go-to for me. But in a PvE environment, it basically doesn't matter in a way. You you just take everything that you have, you know, that you can have. But that was mostly, it was either the druid, the resto druid, or I like the shaman mobility as well with the healer.
Yeah, spirit walker's
really, I really liked it as well. It was really good for PvP and PvE as well, as I remember. So I kind of like the shaman. I stuck with the shaman for quite some time, as I remember, right? When we played in the guild, I had the shaman for a really long time. I think it was the Zandalari troll.
Your Zandalari troll, exactly.
Zandalari troll. I worked my ass off to get that troll.
So
that's the only one that I played.
Since we still need a lot to cover, quick fire questions.
Sure.
As an explanation beforehand, within healing, over time in the genre, there are two types that got developed: the reactive healing, someone gets damage, you heal them. The proactive healing, you place a shield on somebody before he takes damage.
Okay.
I'm mentioning that because you said you like the disciplined priest. Do you think that kind of development is good, and would you enjoy having healers actually separated into reactive healers and proactive healers, so you're already determining how you heal with your spec or class in general? Would you enjoy that? To have that option?
I mean, in a PvP setting?
Yeah, you are the PvPer. You are the PvPer.
So
Class Fantasy and PvP exist as well.
In a PvP setting, yeah, maybe, you know, because you know in advance what you're getting, so you know what you're getting yourself into and how you need to proceed in a way, you know, what you're doing. Yeah, that probably would be cool. Yeah, why not? You know, it can't hurt. You know.
I'm mentioning this because Final Fantasy XIV has developed this system. They have 4 healers currently, and they make a very distinct separation. They have the pure healers in the White Mage and the Astrologian. heal whenever someone takes damage or put regen effects on them. And the other two healers are shield healers. Heal in the form of placing shields before they take damage. And their actual pure healing output is less, simply because they can place shields. The other classes cannot do that, or do that in a very limited amount, with like 1 or 2 skills that have a rather large cooldown. So you are already predetermining how you heal by picking a very specific class. So from a PvE perspective, absolutely fine, because there are always all kinds of damage types coming in raids or dungeons. For a PvP scenario, it can be a lot difficult to determine what kind of damage profile you're actually getting, simply because it's determined by your enemies. So you could get absolutely nuked by an enhancement shaman placing down his Wind Fury totem and just getting really lucky, or you have a lot of consistent damage coming from a Frost Mage that doesn't really have a lot of burst. So having the option there to determine how you heal would be really great, and also it would diversify the healing roster, simply because there's only one shield healer in World of Warcraft, and that is the Discipline Priest. Others can shield occasionally, like the you remember the Cocoon from Monk? The big bubble?
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly
that's a big shield, but that's like that has a pretty big cooldown, so you can't do that very often. Discipline Priest dishes out a lot more shields. So you would agree that from a PvP perspective, it would be great to have like a shield healer, a really like committed shield healer. So you would enjoy that.
Yeah, it would be cool. Probably would be cool. Yeah.
Oh, I think it would be really. I'm not sure. Like, as a PvP bystander, it would be weird to watch, because people are just throwing shields on each other and nobody's gonna break them.
Yeah. the thing is, usually when they see that, they usually switch, if you know what I mean. So if I'm the DPS and I'm getting the shield, they would probably just stop hitting me and just go for the healer.
And then the healer gets a shield.
Yeah, I mean, they're just, it's just running up and down, and then the CCs start popping up, and it's just,
and then you have dampening as well.
Yeah, it can be pure hell, but it's fun, because it's I don't know, PvP for me was much more fun, because I didn't know what to expect, so I had to react and think what I'm going to do, rather than in a PvE setting on a raid. You know exactly when you're doing something, when this ability will drop and how it will drop, and where you need to go to avoid it, whatever it is, right? But here you can't. It's just they lock you down. I mean,
yeah,
and then you get murdered, basically, if you don't do the right thing. That's why I liked it, because it was pretty much, very
unpredictable.
Yeah, unpredictable, very, very unpredictable, and I like that. It's kind of cool. That's why I liked. For example, it's not an MMORPG, but Sea of Thieves was that kind of gameplay.
Yep.
You could work up 6 hours and get the gold and whatever it is. There's a lot of stuff on your deck, and stuff. And suddenly there comes like a massive ship around the bend, just murdering the hell out of you and taking all your gold, which you worked for 6 hours. It's very unpredictable. You need to think what you're going to be doing, and where you're going to be going. That's why I like it, That's why I liked it more in a way. But, you kind of convinced me in the PvE kind of way. So that was actually really fun. I actually laughed my ass off a lot of the times when we were doing the dungeons.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
It was fun.
Next quickfire thing.
Sure.
Tanks are divided into 2 categories as well. You have the more self-sustaining tanks, and the tanks that are able to mitigate a lot of damage, but they lack the ability to heal themselves in a major fashion. Which one do you enjoy more? Whether it be gameplay-wise, class fantasy-wise, just think of all the tanks you've played and experienced. Do you want to be able to heal yourself, or do you want to be like mitigating a lot of damage, but you have to rely on a healer, which would be negative already, but yeah.
I would probably go with the healing self thing. Like the paladin was really good to me. I liked the gameplay, but only the tank.
Yeah, the Blood Decay is like that as well. They take a lot of damage, but they heal a lot of damage. Prot Warrior, for example, is the direct opposite. They absolutely lack the healing. They only have like the talent that heals a little bit whenever you spend rage, but they mitigate a lot of damage. Like they can become absolutely unkillable for a good amount of time, but as soon as they start taking damage, they have to rely on a healer. I do enjoy both, to be honest, because it really depends on how well done it is. For example, the Blood Death Knight is really well done when it comes to self-sustain. The Prot Warrior is also really well done when it comes to being able to mitigate damage. I've seen it in other MMOs where it's like really badly done, and in both categories actually. So it's I would say it's really hard to. I would say the mitigating thing. I like the mitigating thing a little bit more. I mean, there's a healer for a reason. I mean, you pay him for a reason. We paid the healers. You pay healers.
You pay him.
You pay healers
for a reason.
So yeah, I like the mitigating thing a lot more.
What the hell?
What?
I never got paid. What the hell?
You never healed.
I did.
Brax joined group as healer. Brax died first. Healer dead. No healing. I mean,
that's not exactly true, but yeah.
Necrotic Wake. Brax jumps, pulls the next pack, dies immediately.
Oh, I actually saved your asses like twice, I think. Then I died. That's true.
Sure. Let the Blood Decay tank on its own. Yeah, I mean, I can heal myself. Yeah, sure. Healer gets battle rest, dies again. Never mind. Last thing we have to talk about, as the quickfire thing, for World of Warcraft at least. DPS, ranged or melee?
Ooh. That's a very good question.
Or a hybrid. Actually. There are hybrids existing. There are a lot of classes that have range, but are they have a tendency to be one of the other a little bit more. Good example would be Survival Hunter, but they have a lot of ranged abilities, and they can even give themselves a buff to extend even their melee abilities to like a 40-yard range. So, yeah. Melee, ranged, or hybrid?
Most of the time I played ranged. Most of the time. Like 90% of the time I played range.
Even PvP?
90%. No, PvP I played melee, usually. Usually PvP, if I played a DPS spec, like a melee thing, it would be the rogue.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
It also depends on the... it very much depended on am I doing arena, am I doing an RPG? You know, because in RPG I could do a range class, you know, and just stand on the side somewhere and just hammer the hell out of them. You know, or in arena I usually played rogue if I was a DPS. Most of the time I played rogue, like 80% of the time. The other 20% was the warlock, but it was the very mobile one,
the affliction one
with the curses.
Yeah, curses.
So I loved that. It was just like, you know, annoying the hell out of people, just throwing shit at him most of the time, and just, you know, teleporting and moving away. It was just, I pissed so many people off. It was so good. But yeah, more or less it was DPS and a melee thing. Yeah.
For me, it's rather difficult to actually determine what class I like the most within World of Warcraft, because I tend to view them on a spec basis and not a class base, simply because there are specs that I will never ever touch, simply because I do not enjoy the system of it. I mean, I tried them, but realized I don't like them at all. And I can do this for a lot of specs, like for example, I really enjoyed Legion and BFA Enhancement Shaman. I really dislike the Shadowlands Enhancement Shaman because of the Maelstrom system. I can do this over and over for many different specs. Like, I like Frost Death Knight. I don't really enjoy Unholy Death Knight for DPS. For tanks, I like Blood Death Knight, Prot Warrior. I don't really enjoy the rest. For heals, I tried healer once. I tried Holy Paladin within BFA, but Holy Paladin within BFA was really strong. So yeah, I'm gonna pick the meta spec to have an easier time there. It was good. It was good for the heals, but I don't enjoy healing within World of Warcraft at all. I rather enjoy it in other games like Final Fantasy XIV or Elder Scrolls Online. Actually, Wildstar, I did healing as well. Guild Wars 2. So that's kind of a quick thing. Some classes are really well designed within World of Warcraft. But it depends on the expansion. And you can, I guess every player can pinpoint an expansion where they say, I like this playstyle, this class, this spec the most. And I can pinpoint an expansion where I really dislike what they did with my favorite spec or class. So that goes for probably every MMO and every patch cycle actually, if it comes down to that. Especially like World of Warcraft had this and is becoming like that again with the tier sets where people just switch from class to class or spec to specs based on the tier set and the bonus it gives, because it can alter your gameplay in quite a significant way. So yeah, based on the expansions, I can pinpoint a lot of things that I really enjoy about certain specs, and I can make a general like impression of something very specific, and I'm not sure why, but I really dislike rogues. But my father used to play World of Warcraft, and his main was a rogue. I'm not sure why, but why it didn't get like why it turned on me as well and made rogue my favorite class. But yeah, my dad played rogue like a lot. He actually had the warglaives in battle for in the Burning Crusade. He had both warglaives. He was so proud of himself to actually have those things. Yeah, I cannot play rogue for the love of God. I can't. Tried it, can't. Not my playstyle. Absolutely not. I have a few archetypes of RPG classes that I really enjoy, and rogue is absolutely not one of them. Absolutely not. So
it has its uses, but it's
I
mean, I played it a lot in what was it, Wrath of the Lich King. I think it was the best expansion for me for PvP back then. I played the rogue. Oh, I think I got over 2,000 on the ranking back then, which was a subtlety rogue. I think it was a subtlety rogue back then, and I really enjoyed it. But after that, I don't know. I played it a bit here and there, but it never got as good anymore in a way, you know. So I played it here and there just to play it. I didn't do much with it, but it's one of those classes that was always dear to me. I couldn't let it go in a way, you know. So I always when I start playing rogue, it's more of nostalgic kind of thing. It's not something that I'm gonna be building up and just, you know, this is gonna be so good, I love it, you know. It's you know, usually it is not. It's actually one of the hardest ones to level for me. I don't know why. I just
lack of self healing. Like rogues cannot heal themselves. Absolutely not.
Just takes such a long time to level that.
Yeah.
It's just fucking horrible. But yeah,
the lack of
still
self-healing.
like it. You know?
Yeah, the lack of self.
Yeah.
Just if you, for example, would level a Death Knight right now. At a certain level, you unlock a passive that makes your next Death Knight. If you kill something, your next Death Strike is free and deals more healing. Like, you just kill something and then you can just go to the next enemy immediately. And if you drop on health, you just press the Death Strike. and you're back to full health, and then you just kill him and you have that proc again, and that goes on and on and on and on. So it's really easy. So what I want to do,
never ending story.
What I want to do at the ending is I have played a lot more MMORPGs than you have. Simply
that's 100%.
Simply put. So there are classes that I think are really interesting in their design, and I'm just going to ask you the simple question: do you think it would be something that you would enjoy just by my description? And then after that, I tell you what game it actually is, because I want to see if you can make an unbiased decision without knowing what game. Because I know there are certain games you absolutely dislike, but I want to see if you would enjoy the class first.
Sure. Go
okay.
Shoot.
Tank. A one-handed sword and shield uses a physical damage part in its rotation and then switches over to a magical part in its rotation and switches between back and forth those two, being able to deal damage instantly when it's in its magical thing, and being able to deal a lot of dot damage and AoE in its physical form.
Probably not, because, first it's a tank. I usually don't play tanks.
I wanted to give you a tank at first.
No, probably not. I mean, it reminds me in a way of the DK, but with the shield, in a way.
It's the Paladin from Final Fantasy XIV. The current poster boy of the latest expansion, Endwalker. So
no, I mean,
it sounds weird. It is actually weird to play. I give you that. It is something you absolutely have to get used to.
People will probably just ham on me here. I really,
no, it's fine.
I really dislike Final Fantasy, man.
You do. That's why I picked it first. Okay, next thing. A priest transforming his weapon into a giant holy hammer, being able to do multiple attacks with one swing, calling down thunder from the sky, and being able to summon holy light to either completely eradicate the battlefield, pinpoint enemies into an exact location, or just heal.
That sounds a little bit weird.
It is absolutely weird and wild because it is the only game where I've ever seen a class fantasy done like that.
It sounds extremely weird. It's like just like they didn't know what else to do. It's just just throw shit in. No, 100% no.
It is the Battle Satyr playstyle from the Dungeon Fighter Online. What's special about that game is there are classes called, for example, the male Crusader and the female Crusader, being most of the time when you have a male and female counterpart completely different to each other, but share some sort of similarities. For example, the male Crusader can buff and heal, and so can the female Crusader buff and heal. But what makes the male Crusader special is he can go into some sort of Battle Satyr mode where he actually transforms his weapon into a holy hammer, and it looks really, really good. With my description, it sounds kind of weird, but if you see the gameplay, it looks fantastic, absolutely. Unfortunately, it's not really good on the damage side, but yeah, it's...
Here we go.
It's visually, I really, really like it. Okay, let's see, what else can I throw at you? Okay, a berserker having one sword and one real sword, and his arm is actually corrupted by a demon, and he unleashes that corruption and turns his hand into a second sword, being able to deal a lot of bleeding damage, and deals a lot of blood-related attacks and being really, really angry.
Is that like a Terminator kind of thing?
It's not a Terminator thing. It's actually that corruption is bound to the class story, and what this class does with the corruption is how they determine its spec. So every spec handles that corruption differently. He just says, fuck this, I'm just gonna get myself corrupted and be like, yeah, I'm gonna embrace the demon. He can actually summon a blood moon. He sucks out all the blood of all the enemies and just summons that into a giant blood moon and just crashes that down on their enemies, dealing massive amounts of bleeding damage as well. So it's like the most evil vibe you can imagine.
Yeah, sure, but it's so weirdly connected. It really reminds me of Guild Wars. I don't know why.
Guild Wars?
I don't know why. I just don't like Guild Wars. It just gave me a round vibe. But no, for fuck no.
That's actually
it
also
sounds weird. It sounds really weird to me. I don't know why. It's just I like my hands.
It's also Dungeon Fighter Online, the Berserker, actually. The male slayer called the Berserker. Okay.
It's like... I like a little bit of fantasy, but it's a little bit too much for me. I don't know why. Just don't ask. I can't explain.
Okay. I'm gonna give you a really interesting thing of a rogue. Because you like rogues.
Try it. Let's see.
Tapping into the shadow arts, being able to actually gain control of a shadow itself, and using that shadow for either dealing massive amounts of like debuff damage, dot damage, or being able to transform the shadow into an art of barrier, healing and shielding allies. But it depends on who you pick to target with that shadow, and you can only pick one target at a time.
Okay, so what is he then? Like a healer or a rogue? That's kind of...
It depends on what you want to do. The base class is a rogue, but you use your shadow abilities a lot more. Like obviously shadow in the meaning of being stealthed, teleporting to targets, like shadow stepping and all of that stuff.
I mean, it sounds interesting. The only thing is the healing part's a little bit okay. That's different, you know. Maybe I don't know.
I mean, you can justify it in the class fantasy by saying everyone has a shadow. You just utilize their own shadow as a form of helping them, since you are able to control shadows. That is actually, I think that is actually the explanation given within the game. I'm not really sure though. I think it is. It's actually Guild Wars 2. The thief.
Interesting connection.
Yeah, it is a really interesting connection. The thief got the Spectre as an elite specialization in the latest expansion, End of Dragons, where you travel to an Asian continent, Asian-inspired continent, and in all those expansions, they themed all the elite specializations around the continent you got into. So when you went to the desert areas, you got a lot of things related to fire, for example. A lot of the specs actually got relations to the desert theme there. And when the first expansion, Heart of Thorns, came out, a lot of classes got a relation to that jungle environment you went into. So not really sure how they would connect an Asian environment to using the shadow thing, but it's actually a really cool concept that is kind of unique to a thief.
I'll give it to him. Like, it sounds interesting, maybe, but you know, since it's Guild Wars, no. I just can't. You know, it's just. I was in Guild Wars, like I tried it years and years back. Yeah. But it just, as soon as I got in and I looked around, it was like, no. No, this is not me. You know, it kind of didn't feel right. It was the same with, I don't know why, but I know that Black Desert was good.
Yeah.
It was interesting. It was fun to play, but I couldn't take it. I don't know why. I gotta try it again. I'm gonna see. But Guild Wars is something that I really didn't. I really didn't like. I don't know why. I just didn't like it. Just couldn't jive with it.
Okay.
But it is an interesting concept. That's for sure. That's interesting. Yeah.
The last one I'm gonna give you is something that will confuse you quite heavily. Because you would immediately think it is related to one specific game, but I tell you, it isn't. So, follow me. A tech-inspired class that places something on his chest to enhance its damage and give him certain unique abilities related to technology and heat. Also transforming his sword into some sort of lightsaber and dealing massive amounts of burst damage with it. But you can only upkeep this sort of state for a very limited amount of time, and then you have to watch your heat gauge again.
Oh God, what would that be?
First of all, would you think it's interesting?
Yeah, it's an interesting concept, that's for sure.
Okay.
I mean, the heat and the technology kind of thing, it's very much reminds me, I don't know why, but it reminds me of Alods.
Okay, I think Alods had a class like that as well, but it's not Alods Online.
Yeah, it was, I mean, close to that, as I remember. But that was years ago.
Yeah.
I think it was close to that.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that, but it's an interesting concept, that's for sure. Yeah, I mean, the heat thing is kind of cool because it's, you know, you have something that you wouldn't use every time, for example, right? So you gotta watch that. So it's kind of cool considering that, you know. Sounds interesting. But the lightsaber? What?
That's why I said I'm gonna confuse you. So my guess is you think it's Star Wars: The Old Republic, right?
No.
Okay, what game would you think it is?
I don't know. It kind of connects me with the Alods in a way, but I don't think that's the one.
It's not Alods Online. It's also Guild Wars 2. The Engineer. The Engineer really got that elite specialization called the Holosmith in Path of Fire, which was the expansion before the current one. So the desert-themed expansion. They can actually they get something in the class fantasy called the Photon Forge, and they use that to enhance their abilities, and they can actually overheat that forge to enter a limited amount of time window where they deal a lot of damage and all of their abilities when using a main hand sword, which is the weapon they get with the elite specialization, look like they use a lightsaber, especially since the sword you get by unlocking the specialization looks like a lightsaber. So, yeah. Everybody knows what it references, but it's actually really cool.
You're still not gonna get me to play it.
I know.
It's just, I don't know. It's just, I can't connect with the game on any level. But yeah, it's an interesting concept for sure. I mean, that kind of thing should be implemented. Like I think that you had, or do you still have like something like that on a Fire Mage, right? In World of Warcraft?
No.
Like
you don't.
burst or whatever it was?
Yeah, it's combustion where it's a cooldown where every fire ability is a guaranteed crit, and your ignite spreads around. But you don't have this sort of heat management thing in, I think, any of the classes.
No, not the heat management. I mean, you get damage or something, right? As I remember, there was one spell like that. And
yep. Yeah.
Was it taken away? I don't remember that, but I remember it being, you use this, you do a lot of damage, but you get a lot of damage as well. Kind of interesting.
Okay. last class we're gonna do, then we're out of time, will be an interesting one because you said healer.
Oh.
It is a healer. He heals with a lot of shielding and uses fire and earth abilities to both heal and shield allies in a large area, which he picks, and can even increase the attack damage or the general damage of its party members by igniting their swords or general weapons. So basically a healer using earth and fire to heal and shield.
That's like a shaman.
No, a shaman, the typical shaman you would think of uses water. Like the restoration
Water
shaman
as
is the water heal. Is the water thing, it's the heal thing.
I don't know, it just sounds weird to me. Probably not. Probably not.
It's actually the Dragon Knight in Elder Scrolls Online.
Probably, yeah. That's why I probably didn't play it. Yeah, it looks it looks cool, but yeah. I don't know.
Out of all the healers I played in Elder Scrolls Online, that one was my favorite. Nobody liked a Dragon Knight healer because why? That was most of the time that was the question I got. Why would you do that? I just said I like the class fantasy behind it. It's a really cool idea to sort of like give all those dragon themed abilities to other players, and the shielding and healing you were able to do was really good actually. But the one detriment you had was you had no cleanse. Like, if someone had a debuff, whatever debuff it was, you couldn't cleanse it because you got no ability for that. But the healing, whoa, the healing was so good. Like I had so many oh shit buttons. Like shit, someone is dying. Poof, full health. Like immediately. Perfect. Perfect for a new player actually, but yeah, no cleanse. So whenever we went into a dungeon with a werewolf which dealt bleeding damage, I was like
I mean, all of these classes, I should try to give an honest opinion on them. But just listening to it, yeah, it sounded kind of weird, like a combination of multiple things, which is in a way interesting. But some things are just up to this point, it's interesting, it's so good, but then you put something else in, it's kind of what it kind of throws me off.
It is, yeah. It is really hard to describe those classes simply because sometimes it would immediately be boring to just listening to this. Like if I would tell you, Firebrand, specialization of the Guardian in Guild Wars 2, instead of virtues, he whips out a book and reads pages from that book that have different effects. Sounds boring. It's kind of boring. It's still overpowered, but still boring. So. Yeah, I mean, just imagine your healer standing right beside you. Chapter 8. Why do I suck in this game? Read this. I mean, yeah, kind of a Brett's life story, 9. But still. I mean, your healing one. I still remember your healing or your non-existent one. So yeah, scarred for life.
That's the PvE part. You never played PvP with me. That's different. I don't know. I was at some point in the PvE healing part. I think I got a little bored, so I didn't pay attention as much.
Wow! like imagine having 4 people within your group, and you're like, I'm bored. I'm just gonna watch Netflix or something, and people are like, I'm dying, heal me. Yeah, sure.
I actually did that.
I did not know that. Good lord.
It was just the fight sequence there was just okay, heal, okay, heal. It was just more of that. So I was just okay. I healed them. I was just watching the other screen. Oh shit! Okay,
wow.
That's what happened basically. Yeah, that's what happened basically. And some of the times I was really tired. I could kind of
it was sometimes really late. But yeah, there are a lot more classes in the worlds of MMORPGs that are interesting to a lot of people. It's always subjective in the end. But it really depends on how you envision your archetypes and how you want them to be. And for example, you said the Berserker I described to you sounds really, really weird. I really, really enjoyed the Berserker within Dungeon Fighter Online, and there was also, I think, the best iteration I have ever seen of a Berserker was in Critica Online, a game that is unfortunately not running anymore. But it's really subjective as to what you like. The same as goes with healers. I mean, you've seen an iteration of the monk in World of Warcraft, and when you hear monk, you kind of have an expectation of what you want to have for that kind of archetype. I think it goes for everyone that if you hear a monk, you always think of like a hand-to-hand combat guy that fights with a very specific fighting style. World of Warcraft has that sort of Asian-touched combat style. The monk in the general D&D setting, for example, is more of like a holy church-like guy that specializes in hand-to-hand combat, so coming from a priest, which was actually also used in Dungeon Fighter Online, where you would have the monk as a specialization from the male crusader, and he does a lot of boxing, for example. You can have your shadow clone boxing for you. You have a lot of really, really fast attacks. It's probably one of the most difficult classes I've ever played in any game, simply because the amount of button pressing you have to do and the exact timing of it is so demanding. But if you can pull that off, it's mesmerizing to watch. Like, just to give you an example, you have two buttons to duck in and sway back, like boxers do. You can duck in, like they do a forward movement, and they do a backwards movement. You can maneuver around the areas really, really fast as a monk if you can master switching directions between ducking and swaying back. So you would duck in, immediately turn around, sway back. Then turn around, duck in, turn around, sway back. And you would be like lightning across that field where no other class can be as fast as you. And then you go into an enemy, you press 3 buttons, and your combo counter goes to like immediately 600 because you're hitting so damn fast. It is really satisfying to watch, but really difficult to play. So, whatever game fits your vision of an archetype more, enjoy the hell out of it. And I'm sure Brax agrees on that when he looks at all the different archetypes and says, I really like the roguelike thing, or the rogue iteration from World of Warcraft the best. I mean, there aren't a lot of games that have a warlock kind of thing as well. Most of the time they actually go into standard D&D stuff like a necromancer or a general summoner, where you don't really make a specific thing. Like they just summon, I don't know, a demon, which isn't really a warlock thing, to be honest. It's just, well, it's a summoner. He has to summon something. So what do you have in a general RPG trope? Demons and skeletons. Skeletons are necromancer. Demons is like all the rest. Or you have like nature beasts, but that is something like a druid or a warden or whatever it might be called, beastmaster. There's a lot of names for that. So I'm not sure if I actually can think of another game that pulls off that warlock as well as World of Warcraft does, because it does it really well, to be honest. It does it really, really well.
It does.
There's a lot more to a warlock as well, besides summoning. The curses thing is also like a typical warlock thing.
I mean, that's the one I like the most, if I'm honest.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
I always kind of switched back to warlock at the end. Even if I played like a warrior or something like that, I always switched back to warlock.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the middle, you know?
But that shall be it for our brief look. That is really a brief look into classes within MMORPGs. There are a ton of more MMORPGs we could cover with its unique classes, and some of the classes within those games are really well designed. But there's only so much time we can put into one topic without getting it way too lengthy. So I hope you had fun. We definitely had fun exploring all of that. We learned a lot, especially Brax being lazy while healing me in the group. I will remember that. I will remember that.
I mean, it was a good show on Netflix, so you know.
I was dying. Anyways,
Normal then.
in our next episode, we have to have a look at the 2 end game activities you can do in a game. Or is there anything actually besides PvE and PvP? Me, representing the PvE side, Brax being the shitty PvPer as he is. We will look into that and explore some other forms of endgame activities MMORPGs have developed over time. But until then, you stay safe and you have a good time. See ya!
Yeah.